space. Doc, how you feeling, man?
Oh, yeah, not too bad. It's not every day you get to lose $75,000 in the blink of an eye. So, but we're all in kind of the same boat there. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm good, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that intro. Something definitely different than what I'm used to doing. Usually I got them like hype ones, but I figured since it's a New Hope, it was a little melodic. And that was actually a Skrillex orchestra beat in the background. I love them. But I'm good. I'm doing good. It's a little busy today. And like I said, here in 30 minutes, I'm gonna take the kids outside and I'm gonna be hanging out with them. But I'll be hanging out here with you guys in the space. If I got any good questions, I'll definitely be asking away. But I'm excited to hear what's happening, what's new, and where this thing's going. Where do we go from here? That's what I said at the top. Where shall we go from here? Because yeah, nobody definitely wants to lose money like that in the blink of an eye overnight. It looks like the community stepped up. Actually, if you don't mind sharing, you are the current owner of the Nano portfolio and some of the supply of the currently Nanomatic. You want to explain the story of how you came to be the owner of all that and how it transpired?
Yeah, so I'll just start out by saying, I'm the temporary holder of these things. There will be a community vote on who they think should run the project. I've said to everybody in the Discord, I don't think this is a one man job. Um, I don't love the idea of councils because nothing ever gets done for anybody that's ever been involved with one. But there should definitely be, a figurehead, but that person should assign roles to other people in the community to let them be responsible for it, and then to just kind of overview and manage those managers. So for now, yeah, I was able to get in contact with Maya, and he kind of gave me his side of the story, and that's probably one of the first things we'll get into for those that don't know the story, or at least the portions that we do know. Um, but I was able to get in contact with him. He said that he's sorry for how everything turned out. He doesn't, he hates that people got hurt, and so he was willing to turn over the everything he had control of, and he did everything he said he was going to do. He said he's also open to the idea of trying to make anybody who incurred losses whole. So I'm going to work with him on that this week about getting a claim for him put together. Um, it's going to have to be, you're going to have to provide blockchain evidence of actual loss, and we can work with you on that. I'll have some people set up, and we'll probably have a tab set up, or might even just run it through tickets since Jared's already got that set up. Um, However, the best way we figure out to run that to get people the help they need to lock down that blockchain evidence, so we can get that whole thing going. Um, so, yeah, I guess we'll just get right into it. Looks like we got a few people in here. I'm shocked there's not more people. Let me check in the Discord real quick and make sure everybody knows the space is live.
Awesome. While you do that, I would just want to go ahead and give out the shout out to the people who are here, people who truly care about this project and kind of want to see it through. Very curious to see what's been happening um, and what direction here. Like the people down below that just popped up here in the space, I consider like the true loyalists, who definitely want to help out any way they can. And I mean, I know we're going to be voting on. I'm assuming some of the things we'll be voting on is like the CEO. Who's going to be in charge of socials and stuff. And I know there's a bunch of agendas, but I mean, people down here below, I think, in my opinion, at least, should have first dibs because they're the ones who are constantly showing up in these spaces. A lot of the same people over and over and over again. So definitely shout out to anybody and that's just still sticking around too. It's super tough to watch you lose a lot of money, and then you just think, hey man, this project's completely rugged, man. But I mean, seems like there's something in the background cooking up. I mean, we're holding the space, right? And I'm ready to hear what it's all going to entail. And how we could breathe as a community back life into it. So yeah.
Yeah. A big shout out to the people that have been instrumental in where we've gotten so far. Jared is awesome. He's got the Discord locked down. Um, I mean, he's been major. He's working behind the scenes, trying to do everything he can do in order to, move the project forward. Patty and I can't pronounce his name, but he was Nano Angelian. He's OPK or O that guy. They're handling the Twitter right now. Nano Gobbler is locked down the Facebook. Um, so big ups to those guys. Also, a lot of the loyal whales from the project, they've been instrumental in being a sounding board, for me to bounce things off of them, and they say that sounds like a good idea. That doesn't sound so great. Here's some problems with that, and they've been massive. My goal is to get this project heading in the right direction, and then for whoever the community decides to take over the project, it's a well-oiled machine. All they got to do is copy and paste and keep on keeping on, and the project should be in good hands. So I guess we'll kind of get into what we know about what happened. Maya's story is that he was coding at 2 a.m. and that he had three screens up. He was coding on two, and he always has the chart up on a third. And at around 2 o'clock in the morning, he just saw a big red candle. Checked the blockchain, saw that it was Stonky's address that sold, sent Stonky a message, and Stonky said because there was pending legal action that he decided that it wasn't worth it for him to get involved in any legal action, so he was advised by legal counsel to unblacklist all wallets and essentially do what he wanted from there. So he unblacklisted all the wallets. He sold. Maya saw when he figured out what was going on. He sold about 20 minutes later to try to protect the LP as much as possible. And then there was some concern as well. Goose sold hours later, but in his defense, I mean he didn't get nearly as much as I originally thought he got. And it doesn't appear he was in talks with Maya and Stonky as far as coordinating this. Um, he made some money, but he also donated a lot of money to the community, so I don't know how much he actually made. But I originally lumped him in with Maya and Stonky, and that was, that was jumping the gun on my part, from what I know now. So I've also learned that Maya didn't have nearly the control that we all thought he did. He didn't control the keys to the wallets. He didn't control the deployer wallet. He didn't control really much of anything except for the dev work itself and coding for the project and basically being the front man of the project. Um, there was a lot of shady stuff going on that personally I should have done a better job at reading the blockchain, but because I put so much trust in Maya, I thought I'd finally found a dev that I could trust. And lesson learned. In DeFi, especially, you know, trust but verify. If even if you trust somebody, there should always be blockchain evidence to back up what your trust in them is. Um, so that's basically what I know so far of what actually happened. Um, what we've been able to accomplish so far since this whole thing kind of went to crap is we were able to get control of the contract. We also got control of the deployer wallet, the nano portfolio, and then the key to the LP. and been in contact with Floki, so that way when the time lock does expire, there's no way they could rug that part, or anybody could rug that part. So that's what we've been able to get accomplished so far, along with working in the background, um, you know, collaborating with different devs, collaborating with different projects. I've been in talks with quite a few people that just, offering advice, offering paths forward, maybe future partnerships if we can, get it right. And, this is all stuff that the community will vote on, in one form or another. I'm also sent messages to Brew Labs about trying to get this emergency unlock done, but I'm just waiting on them. Um, so before we go any further, I mean, is there anything anybody would like to ask? Want to know anything that I didn't cover? Go ahead and raise your hand, and we can bring you up.
Definitely don't be shy, guys. This is the time to kind of ask if you recalled something, you saw a screenshot, you recollected the whole events completely differently. Now's the time to come on up and ask, and get your 2 cents out. You want to vent? This is the space to do it. So come on up and let us know how you are feeling. I got a few people in the works right now, and currently Funky Monkey is connecting. Dale, while Funky Monkey's connecting, still, what's up, brother? Thanks for coming out, by the way. Dale, you there? Check, check. All right, looks. Funky Monkey, you were up here first, actually. Your hands up now. You go ahead. The floor is yours. You
Fun
have,
there.
yeah. No, I think it's just them. They have to hit the bottom left to unmute your mic, and then you can freely speak.
Hey guys, this is Funky. Am I out of turn?
Yeah, there you go. We have you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I was glitching on my side. Thanks for the space, and Dr. Apoc, thanks for the explanation. And I was wondering if we would cover some of that. I kind of took it pretty hard there for a few days, and I just had to step away on my own. But I was interested in hearing, after the dust settled, what really was going on. It sounds like you've updated us with that. And my question is, how does the key work when when you say that we now have the key, like how does what specifically does that mean? Is there like a seed phrase that is sent over, or does the key have to change, that way we know that it cannot be toyed with again in the future?
Yeah. So the way Floki Locker does theirs is they send an NFT the when you lock the wallet, and the only person that can unlock the wallet has to hold that NFT. So Jared's helped me a lot with that as well. He got in contact with them. They are getting right now. It's still showing an old address, but they can't unlock it without that NFT. So Jared's talked with them. He's got it worked out to where now they know it's in the new wallet, and they're in the process of updating that. So without that NFT, no one can unlock the locked LP.
And then you go to who next? I guess the community or the certain individual.
Yeah, whoever the community decides they want to be the CEO and to run the project, I mean, I'll send over everything, that's sent to me. I'm doxed to a few people in the community, so, you know, there's no worry about me running off with anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's people that know who I am. One thing I will say is that I would recommend, and I think it's got to be pretty much a must, is that anybody in any leadership role in the project needs to be doxxed, um, to everyone in the project, um, as
Yeah, I
well
agree.
as so we don't have another rogue actor. I think everything moving forward should move to a multi-sig wallet holder, to where it would require at least three, but I would recommend probably 5 to 6, and all 6 people would have to sign off before anything can happen with the LP, with anything that has to do with finances. I would suggest that, moving forward. And I think, those multi sig holders, um, I would say probably half should be voted on, and the other half maybe remain anonymous to the dev, just so that way, you know, there's no pressure, no outside. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to come in and try to bribe us for our LP, but you just never know. So I mean, that's something that the community can decide as well. But that's the route I would recommend taking.
Yeah, I agree. And is there a couple of devs that have been interviewed?
Yes, so we've been in talks with several devs. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because they don't they're not 100% ready to be associated with us until we can kind of show that we've turned it around. But myself and several of the community members as well have reached out to devs they know, and I've been in contact with quite a few. Um, I mean, there's a possibility. I don't want to promise it, but I mean, there's a possibility we could get some pro bono dev work from people who kind of empathize with us, and they kind of that's their way of giving back in the space is, for projects like ours that have gotten screwed over by bad actors, and the community wants to rebuild, then they step in and help with some pro bono dev work to kind of get them back on their feet.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and one last question. I'll let somebody else go. If you can share, what's the consensus from the other, I guess, other whales, so to speak, that were also blacklisted, the top wallets have, what's their sentiment on what's happening going forward?
So that's the one silver lining in this whole thing is that the whales that I really trusted, yeah, well, let me say this. I think pretty much everybody sold at one point when they didn't know what was going on. But the ones that bought back in, they did get less tokens. Everybody got less tokens if they sold and then bought back in at the same amount. We lost 30% of those taxes. So it did reduce, whale dominance in the project by quite a bit. But the ones that rebought back in are the ones that you want in the community. They're the ones that I'll personally vouch for their morals. There were some talks behind closed doors in the project. You know, when certain things would happen amongst the whales. So I don't want you guys to think like whales were running the project or anything. But when there was something major involving the whales, we would all chat to do our best to protect the project. One example is when we all voluntarily decided to blacklist our wallets, and then there was a point where Mr. X decided he wanted out of the blacklist, so we had to convene and talk about that, and there was some shady shit thrown around, um, ideas on how to essentially nullify um, his impact of selling his tokens would have. And, you know, there were some people in the project that are no longer in the project that their idea was to unblacklist other wallets first and let them sell. So that way, Mr. X would essentially get pennies for what he would have got and then rebuy back in. And me and several of the other whales, um, which I don't know if they want to be named, so I'm not going to name them. But we said absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to be involved in anything like that that's going to be perceived as, doing any kind of detriment to the community. You know, I don't want to see the project hurt by a big sale, but we can get over a big sale. We can't get over losing credibility by saying we're going to be transparent and things along those lines, and then pulling shady shit like that behind closed doors.
Yeah, I
So
agree with you.
Yeah, so the whales that are still in are the good ones. They're the ones I trust and that I respect. And I'd go to battle any day with those dudes.
And our contract address, is that the same? I'm sorry, I had one more. Now that you mentioned that, is it the contract address is the same and everything? If we look that up, looked the address up on the BSC scan, all that information is still valid. The list.
Yes, it is for now, and that's one of the things we're going to address in this space that I have on the agenda. I don't. I would say hold off on buying for now until we can figure out what direction we're going to go into. I mean, I think a new contract's a must because even though we have control of everything, I'm not a coder. I do have people looking at the code to see if they see any obvious flaws or backdoors, and they haven't seen anything yet. But I think we're going to need to migrate to a new contract just to give everybody peace of mind and to get rid of, some of the bull crap that's in the code and some of the bull crap that was that happened in the project itself. So we will be moving to it. I would assume. I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem with that. We will be moving to the contract. We just have to figure out the best way to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Justice Ricky. I'll be quiet now.
Absolutely phenomenal questions. And thanks for coming. You feel free to stay up here in case you do have something that pops up on the mind and you want to elaborate something even more. Daryl, welcome up, brother. The floor is yours. What do you have for us?
Hey guys, thanks a lot. I really have faith in this project and what's happening. Yeah, it's incredible. And yeah, I would play money to be with you guys. So yeah, So I was just, can I just share a little testimony that happened just today?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so I was talking with another project that's very familiar with Nano, that they've been following it and wanted to do a partnership with me, but he backed down. And he's been through a rug himself, and he looked at us and he said, "Man, you've got nothing. You've got nothing on us. We were worse." And they pulled that project through, and now it's very prosperous, and I'm involved in it. So yeah. And he looked at our project and he said, "Look, I could turn this around in a week." I thought, what? So yeah, so it is all doable. It's all doable. We've just got to look at these guys and be willing, to sacrifice our our pride. And sometimes we've got to actually trust. We've got to actually trust others. So we do the right vetting, but we've got to have the God factor in this. And I know God's on our side, and he's taken me through a lot of stuff in a short period of time, and I've seen miracles, and I've seen turnaround, and I prayed for this project, and within a short time things started to happen. We had the keys, miracles. It was impossible. We were just ready to shoot someone a couple of days ago. I know about it. So yeah, and I love the heated passion, and I can work with anyone, and I can work with guys like you. We're going to have disagreements, but we're going to get on because we're putting the project first, eh? So yeah, just let's cool down our emotions and just look at the practical side of things, and swallow our pride when we're in these heated debates, because sometimes it becomes personal and not about the business. So I'm personally believe this is my passion, and I work with a guy that is horrible to me, but I brought in a lawyer to talk for my business. And so when she comes in, she speaks for the business, and she puts me down and she puts the others down because if we do the right thing by the business, we sacrifice for the business. It's our mother. It's the one we never sacrifice. We sacrifice everything for the mother. And if we do the right thing for New Token, whatever, she will produce. She will reward. And I just thank you guys for giving me this space and coming in with my passion. But yeah, I love you guys. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks, Daryl. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the prayers for sure. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. One thing I think we need to be wary of, and I'm not, this isn't aimed at anybody personally, because a lot of you guys have passion projects that you have devs that and that you trust. It is hard for us to trust people coming in right now, because with all the good people, there's also sharks coming in, that want to come in and take advantage of us while we're vulnerable. So that's kind of where we do need some command structure in place to protect us while we are vulnerable. I know who Daryl's talking about. I had a conversation with him. He seems like a great guy. He gave me some advice. He answered a lot of questions I had. So super, super nice dude so far. But I just think we need to be very careful where we're at right now. And once again, trust but verify. So I think we do need to take advantage of some partnerships. Where we can, but we just have to make sure that we're not giving away the farm just because we're desperate and we're vulnerable. But I'm open to hearing everybody out, and most of the people that have reached out seem very genuine, and I'm going to continue having conversations with them. So unless anybody else has anything else, then I'm going to kind of move on to the next topic. Does anybody have anything else? Want to come up and say anything?
If
I'll butt in here. I got a couple of things. Number one is on the list here on the call. There's a Nanomatic.
Yeah, that's Nano Angelian. He has the Twitter. He's running the Twitter page right now. We have all the passwords changed, everything
Okay.
like that, so it's secure.
Okay. And then number two is the fact that the Stonky had said that he got some kind of legal action and should unblacklist or unlock the blacklisted wallets. Is that, I guess, item that we still have to contend with?
So as of right now, I've asked in the Discord several times if anybody owns one of these blacklisted wallets to DM me privately, so that way I can make sure. But I mean, at this point, they bought into Nanomatic, and we are going to be migrating away from that. So if they are not an active community member, then I think for the safety of the project, then we have to kind of leave them behind, in my opinion. There are some that are owned by community members. I own one myself. Um, when Maya had the DigiFinex listing, he didn't have any money for it. So he approached me and asked me basically if I would buy one of the blacklisted wallets from him to fund the DigiFinex listing. So I said, yeah, to help out the project, I'll buy one. And then a lot of the whales too. We donated a lot of money to the project. Just gave it to Maya to say, whenever there was we got to pay for this, we got to pay for that. That's one of the fatal flaws that Nanomatic had. I mean, it was cool to be in a project to where there were no team tokens, there was no marketing budget, or at least no marketing tokens that, could be dumped. But at the same time, there was never any money for anything unless it was donated, because we didn't have volume in order for the Nano portfolio to generate any kind of, real capital. Um, the little bit of capital it did generate at first that was being day traded, it was being day traded poorly, you know, and I say you guys can't see, but I'm saying day traded in air quotes because I don't think it was actually being traded. I think it was being pocketed. So yeah, I mean, moving forward, we don't. If I don't know who owns those wallets, then I don't. I don't feel comfortable moving forward in a project where, you know, 15% of the project could be owned by bad actors. Um, I mean, I don't know what if you guys agree or not, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, yeah, I would too. I'd like to hear what other people are thinking. My question was, I guess, around that, but like going forward, it will be blacklisting even be a feature? I mean, that was a selling point before. Um, but so going forward, is blacklisting wallets even like legal, or is that a feature the project's still going to have, or we're going to be
It
moving away from that?
it's legal, but from all the devs I've talked to, I mean, first off, it creates huge red flags in these like oh shoot, what's the like deck screener and different things where they essentially grade your contract. I mean, it gives you a big red mark just for having blacklisted wallets, especially when you have blacklisted wallets and the contract is not renounced. Because that's one thing that most people in the project didn't realize is that at any point, Stonky or Maya could have blacklisted everybody's wallet and they couldn't have sold or bought from that wallet anymore, because the contract was not renounced and there was a blacklist feature. Personally, I'd like to move away from it completely. I don't, you know, it's a novel. It was a cool idea, but it just wasn't practical. And then, when you run into situations like we had, the whales were approached about blacklisting our wallets to essentially protect the smaller holders and to generate buzz that, hey, look, 80% of the contracts locked up in voluntary blacklist. So to make people feel more comfortable to buying in, and then we see where that got us. So I think moving forward, we don't need a blacklist. We don't need bells and whistles. We need a transparent community, a transparent team. We need you know, a clear path forward that's easy to understand, and that's where we're going to earn trust. We don't need to earn trust by artificially blacklisting and unblacklisting wallets.
All right, thank you. I'm done.
All right, no problem. Does anybody else have anything before we? Oh, I see.
I just invited him up. And then, guys, ladies and gents who are not able to come to the mic, at the bottom right, there is a little bubble tab. You can ask your questions here into the space as well, and we will definitely be monitoring them and get them answered for you. So, again, if you can't come up at all, you can definitely ask your questions down at the bottom right, and we would love to try to get anything you guys have addressed-wise. Nanomatic for life, you have the floor, brother.
How you doing, guys? Just to go on a little bit about what APOC was saying right there. I think he was referring to Token Sniffer and Is My Coin a Scam? Basically, they give you a big red flag for having blacklisted wallets because, like you said, you can basically blacklist everybody's wallet and then they just don't blacklist theirs and then they can sell. I think if you guys wanted to quote unquote blacklist wallets, couldn't the whales just stake their tokens in Brew Labs? I mean, that's a 90-day lock. That's just like a blacklist, is it not?
Yeah, but we blacklisted our tokens about 2 weeks before Brew Labs even came to fruition. Maya wasn't even in talks with them when we initially blacklisted our wallets.
I mean, in the future.
Oh, in the future, yeah. I mean, we would, we could definitely set up lock staking pools and things along those lines to, make it more transparent. Ideally, kind of a couple of the ideas I have moving forward, we wouldn't have to worry about whale dominance as much. But that's something that we'll kind of get into a little bit later. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get into that later. So, did I answer your question?
Yes, I was just saying for a reference in the future, if the quote unquote whales wanted to blacklist and blacklist wasn't available, you could always just stake your tokens and, prove your hashtag or whatever.
Absolutely. Anybody else have anything before we move on?
I'm not seeing anything, so what you got next for us?
All right. So, I want to address a couple of the fatal flaws in Nanomatic, because the best way to learn how to fix something is to figure out what broke and then work backwards and find the fatal flaws and figure out a way to move past those things. So, yeah, one of the big fatal flaws in Nanomatics was, the weak LP. I mean, we have 5% ratio on our LP. And what that does is it artificially inflates the price. So when you open your wallet and, it's saying that, you have $5,000 worth of tokens, and then one person does even a medium-sized sale, and your wallet drops from $5,000 to $2,500, or $3,000, it's because the LP is so weak. Sales, even larger sales with a healthy LP, they're not going to drop the entire price of the project by 10%. So moving forward, I think that's something that we're going to have to address, and we're going to have to get creative with it because we're left with a weak LP. I've got some ideas on how we can improve that moving forward that I'll get into a little bit later. Obviously, whale dominance to the LP ratio, that was, massive. We saw what essentially 3 whales did to the entire LP. They got 80% of the LP. So another fatal flaw we had is, no real advertising. I think they paid for a couple half-ass influencers, most of whose accounts were full of bots. And that goes back to, no marketing tokens, no, there was never a marketing budget. So moving forward, if we decide, we want to be a community-led project, then if we decide not to do any kind of marketing tokens or marketing budget, then people have to be ready to help support the project financially when it comes to marketing. If we want to gain dominance and to gain exposure out there, somebody's got to pay for it. And if it's a community-led project, then the community is going to be responsible for stuff like that unless we have a mechanism to allow for it. The other massive problem in Nanomatic is, everybody was always looking for that next step. Where are we listing next? What's happening next? We weren't ready for that stuff. We were a small project. Another thing we found out is that 90% of our holders are fake. I think around 400 or 500 wallets hold like nothing, like 10 tokens or less, because when you go to get listed on CMC, you have to have at least 500 holders. So what Stonky and Maya did was essentially just airdrop a bunch of random wallets 10 Nanomatic, just in order to boost our holder count enough to qualify for those things. And then when you add in, people having multiple wallets, we really probably have less than 100 actual holders. And then there were other projects that were airdrop tokens as well to their holders, just to try to pick up holders. Those are also wallets that we'll address moving forward, that when we move to the new contract, if somebody was just airdrop tokens, 90% of them don't even know they're in there. So I don't see any reason to include them in the new contract. That goes as well for the other projects that were airdropped. The exception I would make would be if somebody was airdrop tokens and then they decided to purchase more tokens, well, that person's an investor. But if somebody was just airdrop tokens, they were just given free tokens from Nanomatic, and I see no reason to include them moving forward. But yeah, the things like DigiFinex, we weren't ready for an exchange. There was no reason to be on an exchange. We spent at least $10,000. Maya claims we spent $20,000 on DigiFinex. We could have gotten 10 of the top callers in the space for what we spent on the DigiFinex listing, and it did nothing for us. And I knew it would do nothing for us. I was against it from the start because, it just, tax tokens don't work on centralized exchanges. And you can have the best project in the world, but if nobody knows about it, they're not going to buy it. So just getting listed on a SEX is not guarantee to get volume for your token. The volume that DigiFinex was showing, 95% of that was wash trading from the market maker, essentially just trying to create volume on the exchange so that we wouldn't get delisted because they have a certain volume requirement you have to hit per month. So I was one of the people that, all my free tokens that weren't blacklisted because I had a smaller wallet. I put all my all my tokens over there, to try to capitalize on the reflections on that side because I saw we were getting, apparently a bunch of volume, but then come to find out it wasn't actual real volume, so no reflections were going to be paid on it. So there was no reason for us to list on an exchange. We were doing good with our organic growth, and then I feel like that's kind of when everything started falling apart. Because we could have taken that $10,000 to $20,000. We could have gotten shout outs from James Bull. We could have gotten shout outs from Overdose. We could have gotten shout outs from, all kinds of people. So, I think moving forward, we all need to understand that, just because we're not hitting, step after step after step every week, that doesn't mean the project isn't moving forward. Organic growth is always best. That's what we saw from, when we were at less than a penny all the way up to 10 cents. We saw nice, beautiful organic growth. It sped up a little bit from 10 cents to 18 cents. And then from there, it went parabolic, and that's when all hell broke loose. Because people do funny things when, they when their wallets increase by, $100,000 over 3 days, then even people who claim to be, there for the project and everything else, that greed monster starts rearing its head, and that's kind of where you still see people's real character. So I think moving forward, we need to remember not to demand of leadership that we're constantly hitting new milestones. Let's just worry about organic growth. We need actual marketing, but we need education as well about whatever direction we're going to go into. Um, or really just even marketing out there for reflections tokens, because there's people who just love reflections tokens. I'm one of them. I've done well in reflection tokens. I really like them, and Polygon is probably my favorite alt. So to me, this checked all the boxes. So yeah, that's kind of the fatal flaws I saw in Nanomatic. But it all kind of boils down to the fatal flaw in DeFi in general. Most people that get involved in crypto and in DeFi don't understand it, but crypto for the most part is a zero-sum game, which means in order for somebody to win, somebody has to lose. It's basically a game of musical chairs, and you just don't want to be the last person sitting. 99% of projects in the crypto space are Ponzi schemes, and I don't mean they're scams. I mean they're Ponzi schemes in the fact that the only way the price of the token rises is if new money is coming in, because you can't create money. And if you could, it still wouldn't work because you're debasing your value. But especially in crypto, if the only point of the project is for the token to rise in price, well, you're in a Ponzi. So the only way to fix that is to either have a service or a good that people are willing to pay for and they see value in, or you have a source of external revenue coming into the project. That's kind of where we've all been exploring this last week, is that we've really been spitballing, talking to people, and trying to figure out, what's the best way to get either a project that creates a good or a service, or a project that can generate external revenue that can be injected back into the project in a way that is legal, and it creates passive income for the holders as well. So that's really kind of been our focus this week. That's something that's going to take longer to come together. In the meantime, I think we stick with the KISS method, which, for those of you that aren't in business, it's keep it simple, stupid. You know, we have we have a great base in my mind. The people that were in the project for a while, I mean, we were seeing pretty decent reflections on our investments. You know, Obviously those that got in early, saw more than those who got in later. But even the people that weren't whales, I mean, I think in the first month I recouped about 20% of my initial investment just from reflections. So, that's something that we could start with and then build our way into, these other paths that lead to, either external liquidity or a project and service. We've got some really, really good ideas, and we've been approached by some really, really interesting people. One idea in general, or in particular, is, I mean, massive. I had to sign an NDA just to have a conversation with the guy. It's something that it hasn't been created yet. It's nowhere in the space. It's something that even a year and a half, 2 years ago would not have been possible. Like it would have been like it was a Black Mirror episode. Like nobody would have been able to wrap their brain around it because the tech wasn't there. That's what got me so excited about the project initially with Maya was the OptiDex, because that takes it from a zero-sum game to having this passive income that you're literally just collecting for holding. Because, I mean, to me, that's a perfect crypto. Is if you can get paid just for holding, then it doesn't matter what the price of the token does if you're getting paid week over week, month over month. So, but after talking with some devs and after talking with people I know that are in the options trading world, the OptiDex, the way Maya had it envisioned, never was going to work. He wanted to create an order book style where essentially just like DigiFinex, where you list your tokens and then your tokens aren't sold until there's a buyer for your tokens. And in the options trading world, that's a death sentence for an options trader, because 30 seconds can be the difference between making $1 million and losing $1 million. So they need a deep, deep liquidity pool to sell into. So you have to have the cash on hand up front. When they decide to exit a trade, you have to pay them right then. And you're talking about tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in backstop. I think in the future, I've been spitballing ideas on how something like that could be possible in a decentralized way. But for now, I mean, it was never going to work, not with any serious options traders. Everybody I talk to, because I have friends that they trade, $1 million in options a day. And they said they would never ever do that because they could get stuck in a trade and, just get wiped out. So the OptiDex, as cool as I thought it was going to be, just wouldn't work. So I think we need to kind of pivot away from, that at least initially. If we as a project can come up with a way to, at some point in the future, be able to backstop that kind of liquidity, then that would be cool. But for now, I think that's kind of off the table. So we need a new path forward, which is, kind of where this space is heading towards. So, we're not going to get into too many specifics here about, these potential projects. I think we're going to handle more of the sensitive stuff on Discord. So I would recommend everybody go to the Discord, join, verify your wallets, because I mean there will be information in the verified holders chat, and there's a verified holders only VC where some of this stuff will take place. That way, we just kind of, we've got to protect ourselves moving forward. And it would suck to have a great idea and then put it out in the public, and then somebody else snatch it, run it, and then do it poorly and give it a bad name. So, but before we move on too much further, does anybody have any questions about anything I've said?
We do have something in the comments below. This comes from Lassie said, would there still be he's talking about the wallets. Would they still be flagged red if blacklisted wallets were in a renounced contract? Or is it the fact that the dev can still make changes to the contract?
So I think it's mainly without a renounced contract. So but I don't know that for sure. I'm not a dev. I can ask a dev and get that information. I'll post it in the Discord. But from what I understand, it's just because the contract's not renounced, then that opens up anybody to being blacklisted or anybody to be unblacklisted. So you could think you're safe because 50% of the supply is locked up, but at any point those tokens could have been unblacklisted and sold by Meyer or Stonky. Does anybody else have anything?
Anybody up here on the panel? Nobody's requesting. You're still listening in right now. How long do you want to run this space? Do you still have a pretty lengthy topics you want to cover? And then actually, I'll let you answer that first.
No, I've got basically the only thing I just still want to touch on is basically goals for this week for the project, the short-term plan moving forward, and then kind of addressing a little bit about moving forward. I've seen a lot of people asking about, should we do token for token? So that'll take a few minutes, but I mean, the rest of the stuff I can get through pretty quick if nobody else has anything.
My quick question would be, I have a bunch of my tokens. Actually, all my tokens are in Brew Lab staking. To become a verified holder, I know it doesn't count. It acts like those tokens are not in your wallet. So you want to share the workaround for that?
I'm not sure there is a workaround unless somebody knows something I don't. But my goal was to have everybody do an emergency unlock tomorrow. I was hoping they would get back with me today. So that way, everybody can kind of think about what they want to do, after the space tonight. Because, if people want to sell after this and they just decide they don't want to be in the project anymore, then they should have that right. Whether they're in Brew Labs or they're holding free tokens, I think we should all have the same options. So I'm hoping maybe there's still time for them to get back with me tonight, but I'll pester them tomorrow so that way we can try to get that handled. Nothing's going to happen tonight on the verified holders Discord. But I will make sure that, everybody has access to that. I'll talk with Jared. There may be a way that we can, because I believe I can see the wallets that have staked with Brew Labs. So there may be a way to backdoor them in without tokens in their wallets. But I'll get with Jared and we'll figure that out.
Awesome. And then Funky Monkey, I saw you unmute your mic. You got something?
I don't know if this could be answered, but I'm just thinking to myself, if I wanted to reinvest, or anybody wanted to reinvest, we've got to have some caution early on with, I guess other people wanting to remove their funds, and so it could be a little, sticky for a few weeks or so with just the movement. I guess some people may want to be out of the project and waiting for new capital to come in. And so I don't know whether to wait for that to thaw out. I guess is kind of what I'm thinking out loud here.
So I'll kind of jump in. Well, I tell you what, let me get through this real quick, and then we'll jump into that. So the goals for this week for the project is to secure dev, outline the parameters of the contract, present it to the community, and get a consensus to move forward with that. And then after that, we create a new contract, get it audited, hold a private sale. So this is kind of my idea on, because there's complications with moving to a new contract and then airdropping everybody token for token with the same weak LP. So I think the best thing I've come up with so far, and I think it's actually a pretty good compromise, because here's the problem: is that there's $32,000 in our LP. That's not even 10% of what the project is quote unquote worth. So that means, if you were to sell your tokens, you're getting a lot less. So it's going to be hard to create a new project and have your tokens on that new project, quote unquote, worth the same as the tokens in the old project, especially if the liquidity value of the LP is stronger. Because even though your value in your wallet might look like it's less, it's actually more because the LP is healthier. So when you would go to sell, you would get around the same amount or slightly more tokens because the LP is healthier. So, like for instance, right now, my 1% wallet, it says it's worth like, I don't know, let me see. Well, actually, I've got this one pulled up, so I'll just use it. So right now, the Nanomatic or the Nano portfolio and all the tokens that I've got back from Stonky and the Deployer and the all the Rogue tokens that are out there, which is 38% of the supply. It says on my wallet that it's worth $68,000 roughly. Well, how can it be worth $68,000 when there's only $32,000 in the LP? So the problem we're dealing with is that the price that it's showing in your wallets is an inflated price. Your tokens aren't actually worth that. And they wouldn't be worth that if you sold them. And that's the problem with having a weak LP, is that it makes it easier to manipulate the price of the token. So here's what I'm thinking moving forward, is that verified holders of the Nanomatic token, when we move to a new contract, we'll hold a private sale. And essentially, you'll get credit for a portion of the LP by turning in your tokens. And you'll be able to also purchase more tokens if you'd like in a private sale, where it's going to be the cheapest the token price is going to be. And then after the private sale, so all the people that are currently holding Nano, they want to buy into the new project and get credit for it, they can buy in at a private sale, and then after that, we'll launch a pre-sale. And the pre-sale will be 1.5 times the price of the private sale. And then after the pre-sale, we'll launch a public sale. And we may do multiple rounds of a pre-sale. There's a couple ideas floating around, so we'll dig in more to that this week. But when we move over to the public launch, that would be at 2x the price of the private sale. So essentially, everybody doubles their money that gets into the private sale. They double their money on the public launch. I mean, obviously, launches can get sniped, they can get botted. So, it's always better to play it safe, but this is a way I see to fairly, you know, reimburse some people who lost or reimburse people who lost money, at least some of their money, but also still be able to to generate revenue for a healthier LP. Because just launching with the same LP is going to create a lot of the same problems. So we have to generate, and then we also have to generate, marketing revenue. We have to generate these things, and a pre-sale and a private sale would accomplish that really, really well. And we could also, with the money, some of the money gathered from the private sale and the pre-sale, now we have a marketing budget that we can create a big buzz and a big hype around our public launch. So, that's the way to do it. Stealth launches and fair launches, those are cool, but unless you have deep pockets behind it, it's really hard to generate buzz for those kind of things. Some of them do it afterwards, but those are usually people that, that have a large amount of team tokens allocated that are able to sell off those tokens as the price is rising. Um, so, that's kind of my plan moving forward. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, I'd love to hear them now. That's pretty much one of the last things I got. We'll move over to Discord for those people that want to talk a little bit more. But I'll mute my mic now. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, now is the time.
I got some real fast. So just from the information you just gave us, it sounds to me that wouldn't it be more beneficial just to wait off for a new contract, save up some capital for this thing to launch than to keep buying the current Nanomatic token?
It depends on where you buy in and what the price of the token is by the time we migrate. So obviously it'd be more beneficial if you bought now and the price goes back up to 10 cents. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just saying if it did, then your portion of the LP becomes much larger. So there's pros and cons to both. Personally, I'm not going to put any more money into the token. I'm going to save my money for the private sale. One thing that I'll suggest, and it's nothing that I have the power to enforce, but because I feel like we're all a pretty tight-knit community and the people that are left are the good ones, I would recommend that we cap private sales to a certain dollar amount. That way we don't end up with massive whales, holding the majority of the project. Right now, full disclosure, I think I'm the top whale on my personal wallet, not anything from the team. But just from my personal wallet, I think I'm the top holder. I'm going to see significantly less, more than likely. Especially if I'm still in a leadership role, I'm not going to put myself in a position that I feel like would hurt the community. So, but that would be one of my suggestions, that we cap the private sale, we cap the pre-sale, and that way we don't end up with massive whales, or at least put a cap on each wallet, so we can't stop people from buying in with multiple wallets, except basically through our word. And I can tell you the whales that are left, I trust those guys' word because they gave me their word on several things, and they honored it even when it wasn't easy. So that's kind of something I would recommend. You got any other questions, Ricky?
That was it. Truly appreciate you answering that.
Hey, I got a quick question. Was the MEXC a real thing, and was there money spent on paperwork and applying for that MEXC?
So I can tell you that there were talks with MEXC. There are DMs in the Twitter from the person at MEXC that basically they said they were just waiting on Maya to finish up the paperwork. I can also tell you that it was never going to happen because I think it cost somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 to list on MEXC, and Maya didn't have any money. The team didn't, the team didn't have any way to generate money aside from spending their own personal money. And Maya wasn't going to put any more of his personal money into it. I don't know how much Maya actually put into the project. He claims 50,000. I don't know that I believe that number. Stonky claimed that he put in 40,000. I don't know that I believe that number. Goose at one point I think told me he was in about $15,000. I don't know if I believe that number. So the only number I know for sure is what I put in, and I know I donated thousands of dollars to the team to try to, help out with things because I knew there was no money. So MEXC, they were willing to list us, but we were never going to get listed, and I think that's kind of where all this started blowing up because I find it really ironic that, for the last week of the project that there was such a focus on driving the price up, through things like 50% token bonuses and, drawings for a 1% blacklisted wallet for buys over a certain amount. Like that's when all the red flags started going up for me. And I confronted Maya about it. And if, I told him, I said, you're either panicking or something's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. And, he would never, he basically just said, oh, everything's good. I just want to reward loyal community holders for holding. But yeah, the MEXC thing was never going to happen unless somebody came in and donated $75,000, which I don't think anybody was going to do.
Okay, yeah. And as I'm thinking this through, it's coming full circle to me where earlier we were talking about the example of the red flags on Token Sniffer and such, and what it would flag is the fact that the contract was a proxy; it was not renounced, and also flag the fact that wallets could be changed, the blacklisting could be changed, and that's exactly what happened. If I'm thinking this through correctly, that's exactly what happened. We had at whatever wee hours in the morning, Stonky was able to unblock the wallets, and we what was being flagged is what came true, and so lesson learned on that.
Yeah, I will say that Stonky was very careful in how he did it, which is where we would have legality issues because according to Maya, he did, get legal advice on what to do. That's why the Nano portfolio wasn't sold, and all the previously blacklisted wallets, as far as the ones that were sold for the pre-sale. So initially there was the 30% Nano portfolio wallet, and then there was 21%, 20 different 1% wallets sold. So a total of 50% was blacklisted that was never supposed to be sold. My first big red flag was when he dipped into the Nano portfolio to provide the token liquidity on DigiFinex, and then he unblacklisted a 1% wallet in order to reward stakers over on Brew Labs. That's where the tokens came to reward the holders, was from a 1% blacklisted wallet. So yeah, I mean, Stonky at least was smart in how he did it to protect himself legally, because if he had sold the Nano portfolio, then because it was advertised as, blacklisted to never be sold, then he didn't necessarily do anything illegal because all he sold was his own personal tokens. So, but yeah, I mean, lesson learned. I'll never go into another project that, at least not one that asks people to voluntarily blacklist, or really probably I'll never enter another contract where the dev has the ability to blacklist a wallet. So lesson learned there. Does anybody else have anything before we wrap this up? Any questions, comments, concerns?